Hello, folks. So here we are. It is Wednesday, December 9th, and this is our cells unit test. 35 questions, multiple choice, and after all the time that we have spent working on this, I think it's time for us to finish this one up. So today I will be reading the test for you. Anybody who needs the test read, prefers the test read, or would just enjoy hearing the smooth sound of my voice, please stick around. I'll go through each question. You can answer them as I read. If needed, please feel free. You can pause the video, answer the question. You can rewind it if you need it back a little bit. I've numbered each question, so hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to find them. And why don't we get started? So as always, the directions. Our unit test to finish the cells unit. Send me a message on Schoology about your favorite animal, either personal or general, for 3 extra points. Answer all questions to the best of your ability. And in the case that more than one answer may be correct, please choose the answer that is correct in the greatest number of cases. Number 1, a human body cell is an example of which of the following? Is a human body cell an example of a prokaryote? Is a human body cell an example of a eukaryote? Is a human body cell an example of a cell with chloroplast? Or is a human body cell the example of a cell with a cell wall? Which one is a human body cell an example of? A prokaryote, a eukaryote, a cell with chloroplast, or a cell with a cell wall? Number 2, which of the following is not an organelle? So which on this list is not an organelle? The cell membrane, the ribosome, the mitochondria, or prokaryotic? Which one is not an organelle? The cell membrane, the ribosome, the mitochondria, or prokaryotic? Number 3, the function of the rough and smooth ER is, remember we said they do the same thing. So the function of the rough and smooth ER, that's the endoplasmic reticulum, is to make membrane lipids, to do protein synthesis, to produce energy from food, or storage. Which of these is the function of the rough and smooth ER? Make lipids, protein synthesis, producing energy, or storage? Number 4, the cell membrane allows materials to diffuse, is a barrier to anything entering or leaving the cell, controls the cell and holds the DNA, or produces ribosomes. So the cell membrane either allows materials to diffuse, is a barrier to anything entering or leaving the cell, controls the cell and holds the DNA, or produces ribosomes. Which one of those is true for the cell membrane? Number 5, a cell that requires large amounts of energy in order to keep going will likely have a lot of what? This is a cell that requires a large amount of energy in order to keep going. It'll have a lot of vacuoles, a lot of ribosomes, a lot of mitochondria, or a lot of nucleus. A cell that requires a large amount of energy will likely have a lot of vacuoles, a lot of ribosomes, a lot of mitochondria, or a lot of nucleus. Number 6, cancer is an example of, so which one of these is cancer or can cause cancer, I guess? Meiosis, mitosis, cell respiration, or sexual reproduction. Cancer is an example of meiosis, mitosis, cell respiration, or sexual reproduction. Number 7, bacteria are. So which of these is a bacteria? So bacteria are prokaryotic, eukaryotic, very large cells, or very slow reproducing. Which one of these is true for bacteria? Are bacteria prokaryotic? Are bacteria eukaryotic? Are they very large cells? Are they slow reproducing? Now, for the next few questions, we're going to see this diagram. And it is a little hard to view, but if you take a look, it's got number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, clockwise around the outside. I want to know which is a mitochondria. Is it number 1, which would be right here and here? Is it number 2, which is these two little can things there? Number 3, this green ball? Or number 4, the yellow stuff on the inside? Which one is a mitochondria? Number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4? Number 9, same picture. Which is the nucleus? Is the nucleus number 2, these two little cans? Number 6, this thing, center structure thing. Number 9, this red stuff that's all over the inside there. Or number 10, this yellow thing. So the nucleus, is it number 2, the cans? Number 6, this white thing. Number 9, this red thing. Or number 10, this yellow thing. Which one is a nucleus? Number 10, same picture again. Which of the following produces membrane lipids? So, does number 15 produce the membrane lipids? 15 is this dark line around the outside. It's labeled right over here. Is it number 14, this red structure on the inside of the cell? Is it number 11, these little lines that you see kind of built into number 15? Or is it number 8, these little tentacly bits that are sticking off of one part of the cell? Which one of those makes membrane lipids? Is it the outer layer? Is it the red stuff on the inside? Is it the lines in the outer layer or the lines that stick off of the outer layer? Number 11. This bacteria, so the picture you see here, is an example of what cell type? So this bacteria, this picture is an example of prokaryotic, an example of eukaryotic, an example of plant cell, or an example of animal cell. This bacteria right here is which one of these? Prokaryotic, eukaryotic, plant cell, or animal cell? Number 12. Plant cells have 2 organelles that are not found in animal cells. So which one of these answers has the 2 organelles that plants have and animals do not? Is it the mitochondria and the cell wall, the chloroplast and the ribosome, the cell membrane and the Golgi, or the cell wall and the chloroplast? Which one of these are the 2 organelles that plants have that animals do not? Mitochondria and cell wall, chloroplast and ribosome, cell membrane and Golgi, or cell wall and chloroplast? Number 13. When the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, infects a new cell, it enters that cell through what? How does COVID get into our cells? Does it come in, and this is specifically for animals because we have only found COVID in animals. Does it come in through the cell wall, through the ribosome, through the cell membrane, or through the nucleus? Which one of these does the novel coronavirus enter through? The cell wall, the ribosome, the cell membrane, or the nucleus? Number 14, the post office takes materials, packages, and stamps them, and then moves them out to their target location. Which organelle in this list is most like the post office? Is the nucleus most like the post office? Is the ribosome most like the post office? Is the mitochondria most like the post office? Or are the Golgi most like the post office? Which one packages, stamps, and ships? Number 15, a nuclear power plant is like a, so is a nuclear power plant like a nucleus, like a ribosome? Is it like a mitochondria, or is it like a Golgi? A power plant is like a nucleus, like a ribosome, like a mitochondria, or like a Golgi. Number 16, when you get sick from a bacterial infection, they attack by releasing enzymes that break down nearby cells. What organelle would be affected by those enzymes, by the enzymes the bacteria released? What organelle would be affected by those enzymes first? Would it be a cell wall, a cell membrane, a nucleus, or prokaryotic? Which one would be affected by the bacteria enzymes first when they attack to break down nearby cells? "17. If we wanted to allow human beings to create their own food without needing to eat, what organelle would we want to implant into people?" We talked about this in class. So if we want humans to create their own food without needing to eat, what organelle would we want to implant into people? Would we want to implant ribosomes, nucleus, mitochondria, or chloroplast? Which one of those could we implant into people? That means that then they would not need to eat. They would be able to make their own food. Number 18, this one is very strongly a Regents style question. So there's going to be a lot of specific language in it, but focus on what the question is. Cytochrome C is an important enzyme in the biomechanical feedback loops. As they perform hydrolysis, they cleave amino acids from polymers of nearby biological molecules. This helps the molecule to get packaged to ship. What organelle does the cytochrome C exist in? So once more, cytochrome C is an important enzyme in biomechanical feedback loops. As they perform hydrolysis, they cleave amino acids from polymers of nearby biological molecules. This helps the molecule to get packaged to ship. What organelle does cytochrome C exist in? So based on this, is that in the nucleus, the centriole, the mitochondria, or the Golgi? Cytochrome C performs hydrolysis, cleaving amino acids from polymers. This helps them to get ready or helps them to get packaged to ship. What organelle? Nucleus, centriole, mitochondria, or Golgi? Number 19. Osmosis is an example of, so there's a picture included here, and if you take a look at it, you can see which ones are labeled water molecules and which ones are sugar molecules. You can see before and after osmosis, and we want to know, osmosis is an example of. Is osmosis an example of active transport? Is osmosis an example of passive transport? Is osmosis an example of facilitated diffusion? Or is osmosis an example of nuclease? Number 20. Inside the cell is 90% water. Outside the cell is 70% water. Therefore, water will move. Where is water going to go? Inside the cell is 90%. Outside the cell is 70%. Is water going to move into the cell, out of the cell, in and out equally, or nucleus? #21. Salt cannot diffuse normally across the membrane. That's fact. Salt cannot diffuse across the membrane, but it can still cross, and it does. What form of diffusion would the salt need to move from high concentration to low concentration across the membrane? So it cannot cross the membrane on its own, but it still does. Which one of these is the explanation? Is it active transport? Is it diffusion? Is it osmosis or facilitated diffusion? And if you don't know which one it is, try to think about which ones it isn't. #22. The gel-like filling inside a cell is called what? So this is just the gel-like filling that makes up the interior of a cell. Is that interior stuff in a cell called the nucleus? Is that interior stuff the cytoplasm? Is that interior stuff the ribosome? Or is that interior stuff the mitochondria? The gel-like filling on the inside of a cell is which? A nucleus, cytoplasm, ribosome, or mitochondria? #23. A scientist wants to extract DNA from a sample organism in order to test it. Where should they look to find the most DNA? So a scientist wants to extract DNA from a sample organism in order to test it. Where should they look in the cell? Should they look in the cytoplasm, in the mitochondria, in the nucleus, or in the ribosome? #24. A goldfish, which lives in fresh water, is dropped into the ocean, which is salty water. How is water going to move for that fish? So looking at the cells of the fish, what's going to happen? So a goldfish from fresh water is dropped into the ocean, which is salty water. How is water going to move? Is water going to move into the cells of the goldfish? Out of the cells of the goldfish? Into and out of the cells equally, so there's no real change? Or explosion? So how is water going to move? Into the cells, out of the cells, in and out equally, or explosion? Number 25. This was the goal of our New York State lab about 3 weeks ago now. Why is it important to digest or break down starches for our cells? Why is it important that we digest and break down starches? Is it because we need to digest and break them down to build larger polymers, which can diffuse? Is it important to digest and break them down into glucose, which can diffuse? Is it important to break them down to build them into larger polymers, which cannot diffuse? Or is it important to break them down into glucose, which cannot diffuse? So why is it important to digest or break down starches? #26. Here's a picture with active transport on one side, passive transport on the other side. The question asks, what does active transport require that passive transport does not require? So what does active transport need that passive transport does not need? Does active transport need high to low concentration? Does active transport need low to high concentration? Does active transport need a membrane? Or does active transport need energy? Which one of these is something that active transport needs that passive transport does not? Nearing the end. 27. Bacteria break through the cell membrane and into the cell. The cell responds by sending organelles to break down and destroy the bacteria. What organelle would the cell send? So the bacteria break through the membrane. They're attacking the cell. The cell fights back by sending organelles to kill the invading bacteria. Which organelle would they send? Would they send mitochondria, ribosomes, nucleus, or lysosomes? Which one of those would be sent to kill, break down, and destroy the bacteria? 28. All living things are made of at least one what? Are all living things made of at least one cell? All living things are made of at least one organelle. All living things are made of at least one nucleus, or all living things are made of at least one frog. It's not a frog. 29. Which organelle is used to create the spindle fibers, the lines during cell division? So when we look at a dividing cell and we see all those little lines in there, which organelle made them? It's the only organelle that aids in cell division. Would that be the ribosome that makes the lines? A mitochondria that makes the lines? A centriole that makes the lines? Or a cell wall that makes the lines? Five more questions. Number 30. These cells are all involved in what process? So if you take a look at those cells, you can see a whole lot of different things happening. What are they doing? Are they involved in making a cell wall formation? Are they involved in mitosis? Are they involved in meiosis? Or are they involved in chloroplast? All four of these cells are involved in what process? "31. Meiosis makes what?" So what is the end result of meiosis? Not mitosis, meiosis. 4 daughter cells with half the DNA. 4 daughter cells with 100% of the DNA. 4 daughter cells with 1/4 of the DNA. Or 2 daughter cells with 100% of the DNA. So meiosis makes what? First of all, is it 4 or 2 daughter cells? And then, do they have half the DNA, all the DNA, or 1/4 of the DNA? "32. Which is larger, a prokaryote or a eukaryote?" So which one of these is bigger? Prokaryote, eukaryote, or I don't karyote? I thought that was clever. 33. If a cell has 80% water, 15% salt, and 5% proteins inside. So inside the cell is 80% water, 15% salt, 5% proteins. Outside the cell, 60% water, 20% salt, 15% proteins, 5% other stuff. Where is the water going to go? So inside is 80% water, 15% salt, 5% proteins. Outside is 60% water, 20% salt, 15% proteins, 5% other stuff. Where will water go? Is water going to go out of the cell, into the cell? Is it going to go into and out of the cell equally, or is water the same? So will water go in, out, both equally, or water's the same, so it doesn't matter? Last two. 34. Cancer forms due to what? So cancer forms due to cell division that doesn't stop, cell division under constant control, cell division that never starts, or cell division that works correctly. Which one of these would be cancer? Cell division that doesn't stop, that is under constant control, that never starts, or that works correctly? And finally, number 35. Cyanide is a dangerous poison. Dangerous because it attacks something called the electron transport chain, important cell machinery in the mitochondria. What process would be threatened by this poison? So cyanide attacks the electron transport chain in the mitochondria. What process would be threatened by this poison? This poison would damage what? Our production of lipid membranes, our production of proteins, our production of carbohydrates, or our production of energy. Which one of these is cyanide going to threaten because it attacks this electron transport chain? Ladies and gentlemen, that is our cells test. I hope that through reading it, it helped to clarify it for you and gives you that boost that you need. I can't wait to see everybody tomorrow, because tomorrow we start genetics, one of my favorite units of the whole year. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in class.